our next speaker is actually not here. They are going to be presenting from Switzerland. It is Ms. Rosheen Awotar-Mauree from ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, an organization that we start working together and looking to work a lot more in the near future. Maureen's presentation is going to be over Skype, so I hope you will enjoy it. Maureen, there you are.
Thank you, Basil. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry not being able to make it there, but I'm very happy to be able to make a presentation and to tell you a bit more about what the International Telecommunication Union is doing on big data and cybersecurity. I understand that we have started late because of some connectivity issues, so I'm not very sure how much time I have, but I'll try to be as quick as I can.
Thank you very much.
And the slides will be, of course, available. It's a full set of slides. I'm not going to go through all of them at this point in time. So, first of all, the International Telecommunication Union itself, I don't know to what extent participants are aware of the ITU and then what it stands for and what it does. So very briefly, ITU is part of the United Nations. It is the specialized agency for ICTs. It's a very old entity. It's more than 150 years old. We've got a long history starting from the International Telegraph Union to where we are now. And what you're seeing right now is the building where we are located in Geneva in Switzerland. And I'm actually sitting in the tall building here, somewhere here. So ITU's mission is to connect the world. And to do that, we are structured briefly, just to tell you the structure, we are structured in 3 bureaus, 3 very different entities at the end of the day. Well, the traditional one is the ITU Radio Communication Bureau, which coordinates radio frequency spectrum and assigns orbital slots for satellites. It's a role that no other organization in the world does. So all the countries of that are part of the United Nations, all the 193 countries, come together very regularly to the World Radio Conference and in other working groups, expert groups, to discuss that and to agree on these elements. The second element is ITU standardization. So there, we're not alone in this. We are happy to have other organizations like ISO, IEEE doing standards in ICTs as well. So we work together with them and with other entities in establishing global standards pertaining to ICT. And the third one is ITU development. So there, it's where I'm actually working in. It's the ITU Development Bureau, where our aim is to bridge the digital divide, to get this whole global world to come a bit in an equal level at some stage for reaping the benefits of ICTs. And to do that, we need to start with connectivity, of course. So as our global presence, our head office is, as I mentioned, in Geneva, and we've got regional offices and area offices to be closer to the countries that we serve, especially for the ITUD, for bridging the digital divide. So I work for the Europe office, which is based in Geneva for practical reasons. And although I'm in the global headquarters, we actually operate as a regional office. And we service the member states. So ITU member states are the 193 countries, but it's not just that. It's also more than 700 international organizations and industry. All the big players in ICTs are members, plus academia members. So we have a lot of universities that are part of ITU as a member, and they contribute in the standard settings, in providing capacity to the world as well, in building capacity where needed. So ITU is really a big platform for all these players to come and discuss relevant ICT issues. Now, the ITU office for Europe is not Europe as you know it. It's an office that covers 43 countries that are listed there. And we are driven by regional initiatives that are actually decided by the countries in Europe. So the countries in Europe meet every 4 years. They met last year in 2017 in Buenos Aires to decide on the 5 regional initiatives that they would like ITU to work on and to provide service to their membership in Europe. So the 5 listed regional initiatives are mentioned there. We have traditional initiatives such as broadband infrastructure. Europe 2, which is building services for national administration. It's more about digitization. The third one is about digital inclusion, accessibility, girls in ICTs, youths in ICTs as well. The fourth one is about enhancing trust and confidence in the use of ICTs. This is the one about cybersecurity. And we have a fourth one, which is a new one, which is about innovation ecosystems. So you would see a few logos there. ICT for Sustainable Development is the middle one. The Sustainable Development Goals, which you may all know, is what all the countries in the world are now working towards for the 2030 agenda, and it consists of 17 goals. So when we talk about cybersecurity and global policy and ITU's role, it starts with the Sustainable Development Goal at that high level. Really, we have components of cybersecurity in many of these goals, but the main one is SDG 9, which is about building resilient infrastructure. It's then trickled down to something that is the World Summit on Information Society. I don't know to what extent you're aware of that. There have been 3 main sessions of it: the Geneva session in 2008, the Tunis one in 2005, and the New York one in 2015. So this is where we have a very clear mandate for ITU to work in the cybersecurity arena. But we really work on cybersecurity capacity building. Our mandate does not go towards cybercrime or towards escalation of cyber components such as cyber warfare. These are taken care of by other UN entities. So we are driven by what we call the Global Cybersecurity Agenda, which is the platform that we use to discuss cybersecurity internally and with our membership, and from 5 perspectives: the legal aspect, technical aspect, organizational aspect, capacity building, and cooperation. So our role as ITU as a whole is a convener of multi-stakeholder collaborations, developing standards, which is aligned with our mandate in ITUT, same for Radiocom, and of course to build capacity in countries where needed on cyber. I would like to tell you what I'm showing you is what we do in cyber right now, and then I'll show you what we do in big data, and then how it's converging in certain elements. So we have study groups in cybersecurity that is a platform for information exchange, and it includes exchange with industry and academia, and it ranges from use case and case study and practices exchange, as we do in the ITUD study group, to more technical standards that are worked upon mainly by ICT industry players who are the key players and the key people who sit in these study groups and develop these, so that the new system, the new software that they are developing has that very important component of interoperability. The same happens with the Radiocom aspect. So the Telecom group, study group 17, has developed many standards in security, which includes telecom security management, cyberspace security, where we have the component of cybersecurity information exchange, which is a standard used mainly by NationalCERT. There's also standards at application and service level, and there we're talking about Internet of Things, smart grid, 5G, big data analytics, cloud computing, and the rest. So I'm not going through this list. It will be it's on the website. You can have more details of it as well. But these are some of the key standards in security and cyber that have been developed and that are already out there for use. and that are being used. You will take note there's a series on IoT, on Internet of Things as well. In the radiocom sector, the same principles apply in terms of developing standards for security, but which is linked to radio communication very specifically. So we have certain standards on the principles of IMT, 3G, 4G. We have more standards on network management architecture for digital satellite systems. Some standards on performance enhancement of transmission control over satellite as well. So the work in the radiocom standardization is continuing, and the whole point is to match what's happening in the telecom world. Now, this is a bit more of where I can talk for a long time, but I'll try to limit myself because I was part of the ITUD service team providing to all member states cybersecurity before joining the Europe region team. So these are the set of services that we provide to countries. You would say mainly developing countries, but some of the services are also for developed countries. I would probably highlight one of them being the Global Cybersecurity Index. I don't know to what extent you may be aware of that, but it's an index that measures the level of commitment of government at national level of all countries. And we had 2 editions of it. The first one was in 2014, the last one last year, and we're going to have another one this year. So if you want more information, we have it on the websites there. There's a lot of good information about what's happening from a government perspective in cyber. When we talk about big data, I would say that big data would come into the CERT, the Computer Emergency Response Team program that we have. It's a program to help countries to review, enhance, or design and establish their national computer incidents response team. And at that level, within the program, at the implementation level, as part of capacity building and training, we have certain technical solutions that are provided to the national certs, the budding new national certs, and one of them would be very soon. It was provided in the past, but it's being revamped. It's the Hornet service, if you want, and this service would, of course, be something that would be linked to. Has a component of a lot of data coming in there. Would you put that as big data in the future or not? That's a big question, but I think it's being revamped right now. So this system of having honeypot sensors strategically located in the cloud around the world, actually, and being able to help national certs to get information for the Hornet system so that they can then mitigate cyber threats with accurate and targeted threat information on actual attacks and intrusion attempts is going to be expanded for the national infrastructure of the certs and for the community of certs that come together as well for sharing. So now I would like to move to ITU's work on big data. When we talk about big data for ITU, there are 3 components in there. One was the need to highlight the technological developments that have facilitated the emergence of big data. There's also identifications of sources of big data for monitoring the information society, which is something that ITU needs to do through its mandate, and of course developing standards related to big data. So the technological developments, I won't go into this. You've had very interesting technical presentations on those different things, and just to tell you that ITU has that report, which we call the Measuring the Information Society report, which is issued on a yearly basis, and which is a reference for ICT statistics. The idea is basically to start using big data to help in there. Some slides just to tell you about the growth of the Internet of Things and the fact that, as we all know, we're expecting connected devices to exceed 50 billion by 2020. So we're getting there. This one is more about Internet of Things, which is something that's being looked into very closely at the ITUT standards team level. So they have a lot of information to share, but they have a lot of inputs they require inputs as well to be able to do their work, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. So for us, big data requires some emerging enabling technologies around it, which is fueling big data, and that's artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and cloud computing. Now, coming to the aspect of monitoring the information society, we believe that the ICT sector is a major source of big data, and what we're talking about here is really the telecom providers, the ISPs, and the fact that they have a lot of information that can be used at different levels. And our objective in having big data for measuring the information society is to try to see if we can produce ICT indicators. We need to develop and test new methodologies as well, but how to use big data to do that. We already have a lot of information through official statistics, but that we collect from the countries, but can we do that through big data as well, through data that's collected through these different telco operators and other stakeholders in the ICT arena. We have started the work on there. There have been 6 pilot countries that joined this movement to see if big data can be used for measuring the information society. We have had challenges, of course, in doing that. One of the challenges was that data protection. I think it's going to become an even bigger challenge now. And also the other aspect was the quality of the data that you're receiving. We do believe strongly that big data indicators has its place among the administrative ICT indicators that we have, and the household survey ICT indicators that all countries have. Another aspect of big data for development that we've tried and tested is regarding emergency response enhancement. So ITU data has shown that around 95% of the world population is covered by mobile cellular networks, and there's a growing number of people using mobile phones, of course. And this makes mobile phone operators a particularly valuable source of information in the case of emergency situations as well. And we started this project in 2014 with the outbreak of the Ebola virus that happened. And that was the first time that ITU initiated a big data project in a least developing country, which was at that time we started with Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. So basically, the idea was to facilitate timely exchange of information to respond to these outbreaks using information on called data records as the big data source from which we could derive visual information on citizens' mobility and their spatio-temporal distribution. So from there, we had built the platform, if you want, the initial platform, that the beneficiary countries were able to collect, store, and classify data and link it to different data sets to be able to carry out some analysis. So we assisted in building the basic infrastructure. And this infrastructure is now to be further used by the countries as they wish with other partners at the national and at the international level as well for further research, enhancing the analytical aspect, or rerouting the perspective of usage. For example, Guinea is currently working with an international organization to see how to enhance the use of CDR records on this platform to work on better response on health issues outside Ebola. So there too, again, you have some issues that happen, which is the privacy aspect. And there's some questions about, well, movement of people around is important, but tomorrow in the world of the future, we could see it happening, and looking at cybersecurity issues, where if you have cyber attacks that impact real life of citizens, and there's movement in there, there might be a need to use this platform there as well. When we're talking about big data and radiocom standards, there's a lot of data in the radiocom area. As you can imagine, the meteorological aspect, Earth exploration, satellite service, power grids management, and there's a lot of work happening in the radio ITUR study groups on big data topics there. There's especially a lot of data collected with regards to Internet of Things and the machine-to-machine aspect. I'm not going into more details on that, but there will be standards coming out in the future on this. This is a set of standards. It's a very heavy slide on big data for sustainable development, the standardizations that have been done so far. So we have a standard group called Future Networks, Cloud Computing and Trusted Network Infrastructure, that has developed a fair bit of recommendations already on big data for cloud computing-based requirements, capabilities, standardization roadmap, framework and requirements for data exchange, and framework of big data-driven networking. And there's more work happening also from that study group there. They are looking on some more conceptual model and looking at big data to better shape mobile network traffic. We have another study group which is about tariffs and accounting principles, but which is looking at big data from another perspective, the economic and policy aspect of big data in international telecom services. So we'll be hearing more on that in the future. When it comes to Internet of Things and smart cities and communities, we have one study group very focused on that. There's a recommendation already out on certain requirements and capabilities of the IoT for big data. They have a new focus group, which is a smaller group that is discussing things on blockchain for data management, data format for IoT, and data interoperability, and security and privacy in data management. And again, the concept of big data is floating around there as well.
Rosheen, just to let you know, we got 5 more minutes.
They are coming up with a security guideline for big data as a service very soon, in September. There will be a guideline on lifecycle management for telecom big data, and there will be one on big data infrastructure and platform. Big data analytics for security is something that's being looked into from the mobile internet services perspective, and also from it's an interesting way of putting it, misbehavior detection mechanism for big data analysis for connected vehicles. So there's a lot of work going on at the ITU level on this. So this is my last slide, just to tell you what's happening by next year. So Hornet is going to be operational as part of ITU's NationalCERT program, so that will be a tool that we'll be providing there. The Measuring Information Society pilot project final reports will be out, so we would know more about where it's heading next. The Emergency Response Platform Exchange, as I mentioned, are having new partnerships for analytics and more usage in health sector. So the idea is basically to see how least developing countries or developing countries can use their big data maybe to leapfrog in terms of ICT usage at their level, and in terms of socioeconomic decision making. And of course, as I mentioned earlier on, there's that guideline on lifecycle management for telecom big data coming up as well. So that was my presentation. I don't have visibility on you, so I can't see you. So I'm not very sure how interesting it was for you, or if you all switched off at this point in time. So I'd like to hear from you if you're interested in knowing more about the standards or the assistance we provide to countries, or how you could join work that's happening in big data or in cyber at ITU. Please just drop me an email. The email address is there, and we can guide you to the right people and work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.